Hi, good morning, everyone. So sorry about the technical delays here. But welcome, thank you for coming to this session. If you're not getting certified, you're certifiably nuts. If you want to learn about Salesforce certification, kind of the whys, the hows, especially why it's useful, and what you can do to start, this is the right place. Forward-looking statement slides. Not many forward-looking statements here, but they told me I had to put it in, so here it is. Don't make any purchasing decisions based on what I say here. Make them on generally available things that we've got. Quick introduction. So my name is Vivek M. Chawla. I'm an ISV technical evangelist, and what that means is in my day job, I help our ISV partners build apps for the App Exchange. But I'm not here to talk about that. I'm here to talk about certification, which is something that I'm actually very passionate about. So I'm grateful that you guys came out to hear about that today. And here's what we're going to cover. We have a short session. It's actually even shorter because we've had 6 minutes of tech problems. But we're going to talk about why certification matters, how to get started, tips and tricks, and then some next steps. No time for questions in this session, but afterwards, I'm going to be right over there by that big tree. Anybody who has questions about certification, come up to me. Happy to talk to you guys as long as it takes. Okay, so let's start with why certification matters. And you're going to hear about this $859 billion Salesforce economy quite a bit this week. What that means is that by 2022, there's an IDC report that predicted there's going to be an $859 billion, it's billion with a B, impact to GDP because of Salesforce. And that's going to result in 3.3 million jobs. Now that's a lot of jobs, and it's a lot of jobs where Salesforce skills are going to be in demand. And law of supply and demand, if you've got an increase in demand in skills, there's going to be a premium for those skills when it comes to salary. So it's a good idea to have skills. Now, why is certification a good idea? Well, certification, it's instant credibility when it comes to those skills. And that instant credibility sets you apart from your peers that aren't certified. Quick show of hands, who here already has at least one certification? Okay, good. That's I'm glad, because that's actually a low percentage, because it means most of you don't yet have a certification, and that's why you're here. So that makes me happy. For those of you that didn't raise your hand, how many of you are thinking of getting a certification within the next 6 or 12 months? Oh, that makes me feel even better. Okay, well good. Because what that does, all of you, the fact that you're here, you're spending time at Dreamforce, you came to a session about certification. That demonstrates a lot of personal drive. And so when I've been in position to either vet candidates or hire candidates with Salesforce skills, this is why I like seeing people who are certified, because it means you've spent time, put in the effort, put in the work, and sometimes even put in your own money to get certified. And that's the kind of employee that I want to have. This is a slide that tells a little bit of my story. I'm going to go through this really, really fast because we don't have time. Point of it all is certifications are great. They really help me. I'm not just talking about this from some abstract point of view. Like, this stuff affected my career in a positive way. That's why I'm really excited to share it with you guys. Okay, so how do you get started? And first thing is really choosing the right path. Let's go through this again kind of quick. So the paths, you've got your administrators and consultants. Admins, who here is an admin? Admins are the backbone of Salesforce. You guys are the ones that make Salesforce work for people. And then consultants, you're the ones that make sure that a business gets the most business value out of an implementation, that it's planned right, that it gets built right. So, both of these really, really critical. On the developer side, you've got app builders and developers. App builders, that's the clicks, not code side of the house, the declarative side. Then you've got the developers. These are folks like me, Apex, Visual Force, Lightning. That's your code, not clicks. That's the other side of the development house. Architects, they got their own little animation just by themselves, because there's actually a pretty diverse set of exams for architects. Are there anybody here interested in the architect path? Okay, definitely talk to me afterwards. There's a lot to talk about. And then there's a lot more. I mean, there's marketing, there's Pardot, there's Salesforce CPQ, Einstein's new and coming out. There's a lot, we're always building new products, right? So there are a lot of opportunities to prove your expertise in these new specializations, because as we introduce products, it's really important for people, potential employers, to know that they can get qualified candidates to do the work. So those are the paths, and now you might wonder, where do you start? And first thing is, begin with the end in mind. Do you want to be an admin? Do you want to be an architect? At least have a sense of where you want to end up, even if that ending point is 3-4 years from now. Once you do that, I recommend that you start with these 2 certifications. And I mean everybody. Architects, admins, everybody. Start with Admin 201. And then do the app builder. Now, if you're an admin that says, well, I'm not going to build apps, do the app builder anyways, because it's going to teach you a lot more of the details of building declarative apps. If you're an architect and you're like, I don't need admin. Admins are the backbone of Salesforce. Having that skill is really important. And once you've done those 2 certs, you go for your next steps. And that is going to depend on your role. So for administrators, the end of the path is the Certified Advanced Administrator. But here's what I would suggest as a bonus. Service Cloud certification is very valuable, because Service Cloud implementations are sometimes very mission critical to a lot of large enterprises. If you have Service Cloud skills, that's a big deal in the job market. So if you're an admin, stretch yourself, go for Service Cloud. For a developer, it's pretty straightforward. Platform Dev 1 and 2, right? The old way was developer and advanced developer. Now it's Platform Dev 1 and 2. I challenge you, if you're a developer, do the Sales Cloud certification, because if you start by just going right into code and you live in Apex and you live in Lightning, you don't have the same sense of how your users are going to be using the app. You don't maybe have the CRM, backbone that you might that would help you in the work you do, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And finally, for architects, there's 2 paths for architects. There's a system architect and an application architect. I'm focusing on application architect here. For all architect paths, the Certified Platform Dev 1 is the first step. And then if you're thinking of the next step as you go into, I think it's 3 more exams, for application architect, look at the Certified Sharing and Visibility Designer. That one's important because it's a foundational skill that everybody who works on Salesforce should have. And as an architect, you really should understand sharing and visibility. Okay, so a lot of information there. I want to give you an idea of where you can go for more information and for help. The home page for anything certification related is certification.salesforce.com. You can find exam guides. The exam guides have everything you need to know about each exam you might want to take. There's information about the different certification paths. You see all the prerequisites. Everything you need to know is there at certification.salesforce.com. There's also the Certification Trailblazers group in the Trailblazer community. Join this group. If you have specific questions, ask them there. Engage us. People at Salesforce are happy to help. And in fact, we actually have back there the Trailhead community and Trailhead booths where you can get some specific questions answered about certification today. Okay, tips and tricks before the exam. So some registration do's and don'ts, and it might seem obvious, but register early. Hell, register now. You remember we raised our hands who was going to take a test in the next 6 or 12 months? Have any of you registered? Okay. One guy. So he will be taking it, but y'all, you're just gonna take it. Go from gonna take it to will, and that's why you register now. And secret, you can always cancel later, so it's not gonna, it doesn't cost you anything. But by putting a date, it helps. And then when you register, don't test at home. Testing at home is one of the options. You have to set up a webcam and they watch you while you do the test. It's really stressful because if your dog comes in or your wife comes in, and she's done that to me, I'm like, oh, no, take a test. No. It's not worth the extra stress to skip the 30-minute drive to the testing center. Plus, you don't get scratch paper if you test at home. Preparation is critical. We already talked about exam guides. The exam guides also have trailhead, like suggested trailheads. That can be very valuable. And finally, this is the most important piece on this slide, not to mention it's got Cody the Bear, who's my hero. Make certification a team sport. Use other people, use your peers for accountability, for support. If you get certified with somebody, and especially if you can teach them what you're learning, it's one of the best ways to learn, it's one of the best ways to pass, and it's a great way to network. I still have friends and even did some business with people I met in my very first Admin 201 study group. All right, on exam day, bring your best. Meditate before you start, and if you don't like how zen that sounds, tell you what, sit there quietly, close your eyes, and just breathe deeply for 10 minutes before you start. Don't meditate, just breathe deeply. The point is, relax. There is not a single flashcard, there is not a single study guide, there's not a single resource that you're going to look at in those 10 minutes that's going to do you any good. But lowering your heart rate, getting centered, and being kind of chill before you go in, that's going to help. Don't stall on impossible questions. These are timed exams. If you get a really hard one, mark it. There's a little thing you can mark it in the test. Mark it, move on. And then be careful second guessing yourself. Believe it or not, we usually know what we're doing, even if we don't think we know what we're doing. Most of the time, your first guess is going to be right. Sometimes you can go back and change it, and you'll find out, okay, maybe now I see from a different question this answer's better. But be careful when you do that, because usually your first instinct is correct. I mentioned scratch paper. So what can you do with scratch paper? Here's what I do with scratch paper. Now, before you actually start the test, but after the proctor comes in and logs you in, kind of sitting there in this untimed zone, right? Put 6 by 12 lines, makes a 72 square grid, and then in that grid, each little square becomes a workspace for a particular question. So if you got like question number 9 there, it's a 5-answer multiple choice, select the best 2. As I'm going through that, every Salesforce exam, they've got at least one really obvious right answer and at least one really obvious wrong answer. So mark them off on your little workspace as you go. Best case, you're going to get to like a 50-50 chance, even if you don't know the last 2. And then the other things I like to mark with a check mark if I'm sure, question mark if I'm not, X if I have no idea, so that when you do go back, at the end of the exam, it shows you a list of all the numbers and then the ones you've marked. I don't want to go back and look at ones marked with an X, because I knew when I read it, I've got no shot at it. This saves you time that could be used going and looking at another question that you might have had a better shot of getting. Okay, after the exam. You might fail. So in my 21-year career, I've taken, I think, 32 different certification exams. I failed my advanced developer certification exam the first time. So you might fail. And that's okay. It's better that you actually went and tried, because you're going to get a sense for the exam. When you leave the exam, pull out your phone and start taking notes. Okay, this one was really hard. That question, I wasn't sure on sharing rules versus org-wide defaults. Take some notes so that you can use that to study. Let's put that there. If you do succeed, share the news, right? Go on LinkedIn. You can put your certifications on LinkedIn. Go on Twitter, tweet about it. It really is hard to pass these exams, and once you do, leverage that. Tell people about it. And then finally, maintain your certification. Don't be like me where you get the notifications like 2 ones late that you've got to recertify or lose your certification. It happens once in a while. Now, there's a maintenance exam. Every single release, you're required to maintain your certification by answering 5 to 8 questions. This is really good because it makes sure that there's continued value to your certification. Because people that don't care or are not continuing their work, their certifications fall off. Okay, we are almost done in this rapid fire shortened presentation. Next steps, and this is where I'm going to leave you with stuff that you can do today. And here's what I want you to do. First step, decide on your first or your next, because we had some people who are already certified, decide on your first or next certification. Go to certification.salesforce.com. Look at the details for that exam. Find out all that you can about it. Now that was all the easy part. You ready for the hard part? Pick a date. Pick a date within the next 6 months and actually register. Do the thing, you put in your credit card, you register, you've put some skin in the game. And if you thought that was the hard part, this is the really hard part. Tell 2 colleagues the name of the exam, the date you're going to take it. Tell them that that's what's going to happen. And here is what that looks like. I just did this a few days ago. That's a real tweet. That's actually one of the guys that I tweeted to, Andre right there. And I told 2 of my peers that I'm going to take this test on November 30th, and I'm going to look really silly if I don't follow through now. So this is what that kind of accountability looks like. And with that, we're at the end. Thank you very much. I appreciate your patience during the technical difficulties. I'll be over by the big tree answering any questions afterwards. Thank you.